Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to sift through different materials, different sources, and really pull out those key insights that make you think. Today, we're journeying into, well, the pretty unsettling corridors of Sarah Langan's psychological horror novel, Audrey's Door. Our mission, really, is to dig into this complex mix of psychological struggle, architectural mystery, and, frankly, a genuinely haunting presence that just fills the pages. It's a deep dive into how our past shapes us profoundly, and how, yeah, even buildings can hold these dark secrets, secrets that need confronting.
Absolutely. And what's so fascinating, I think, right away in Audrey's Door is how Langan uses this one single ominous setting, this old New York apartment building. It's not just a backdrop, it feels like an active character, almost a malevolent one. It's a really powerful way to explore these deep anxieties we have about identity, about mental illness, and the burdens we inherit. So yeah, as we unpack this story, we'll be looking at the breviary, the building, almost as much as we look at the people living inside it, how its history, its structure, they actively participate in the horror.
That's a great way to put it because the breviary really demands your attention from the get-go. Our main character, Audrey, she's an architect. She comes to New York looking for a fresh start, right? But what she finds in this building is, well, it's both magnificent and deeply unsettling. Like the first description of the lobby, it paints this picture, grand as a ballroom, with cracked Italian mosaics and these Art Deco era stained glass windows. But immediately she clocks it as neglected, run down, divine, divine. And then there's that line, it's really arresting, where she thinks, I can see now why there are wars and people kill for things just from looking at a building lobby.
It's such a visceral reaction. And that immediate gut feeling Audrey has, it's not just description, it really sets the whole psychological stage. It sort of hints at the building's deeper nature, almost like it's alive, breathing something disturbing from the moment she walks in. And that feeling gets amplified pretty quickly by Edgardo, the super. He gives Audrey this chilling warning about who lived in her apartment 14B before her, this woman, Clara D'Elia, who tragically drowned her 4 babies in the bathtub and then slit her wrists. And Edgardo's advice is so blunt. All people have dark side, you'll notice. It really suggests this place doesn't just witness darkness, maybe it encourages it.
Wow. And the building's own origin story is just as dark, maybe even darker than Clara's. So we find out the breviary was built way back in 1861 by coal tycoons in what was then Harlem Hills. And the architect, Edgar Schermerhorn, he was a proponent of this philosophy called chaotic naturalism. The breviary was his one sort of notorious success. His other 18 buildings condemned. And get this, he also designed these incredibly inhumane slaughterhouses where animals were apparently disemboweled, left to bleed out, screaming, just horrific. And Schermerhorn himself, he eventually hanged himself, right there in the building's church, from a rafter above the altar. His wife even said later that the madness of its maker peered back at her from the building's windows. I mean, that's not just a troubled start, that's a foundation soaked in torment.
Exactly. And this brings us to a really crucial question Langan seems to be asking. Is the building itself inherently flawed? Or does it just amplify the flaws already inside its residents? And that idea, chaotic naturalism, it's key. It sounds like an architectural philosophy that, in Schermerhorn's twisted view, didn't just accept chaos, but actually designed this unsettling, unstable feeling into the building's very bones. So it's more than just a haunted house story. It's almost like the design itself gives the breviary this predatory awareness.
Yeah.
Actively looking for vulnerabilities in people, turning their inner demons outward.
So it's like a physical structure that's also a psychological trap.
Precisely, yeah. And the building's history backs this up. The records show that by the turn of the century, 30 residents had been committed to asylum, 7 were murdered. You've got these old newspaper reports like one from 1894, debauchery in Central Park, linking the breviary to 2 Parisian actresses found dead after a party there. Their bodies were described as disturbed. And even a major suicide. Martin Hearst IV, a big banker, jumped from the roof in 1937. That was the 28th suicide linked to the breviary. I mean, this pattern, generation after generation, it points to something way more sinister than just bad luck. It feels active, almost engineered. Doesn't it make you think about the creator's madness lingering?
Absolutely. It's genuinely chilling. And this connects so directly to Audrey herself. Her own history is just as troubled, maybe, as the breviary's, which makes her connection to it feel even more intense. She grew up with a mother, Betty, who had severe bipolar disorder, and she experienced these terrifying manic episodes, like one time tearing up their kitchen floor with a chef knife, convinced something bad was down there in the hole. And Audrey talks about feeling completely abandoned, and she even admits, very rawly, to wishing her mother had turned the knife on herself instead. That kind of upbringing leaves deep deep scars.
Oh, absolutely. And that difficult childhood shaped her profoundly. You see it in these classic signs of obsessive-compulsive disorder, the OCD. Her compulsive cleaning, the need to pat her thighs, this habit of running her fingers along hard surfaces like a window frame. It's all about trying to reassure herself, maintain some control in a world that felt chaotic. She even talks about having bad thoughts, these intrusive, awful images she couldn't control. So when we moved to New York, it wasn't just a change of scenery. It was this desperate attempt, as the book says, peel off her own skin to escape those inherited demons, especially after her mother was hospitalized. But, some things just follow you.
Right. But despite all that, Audrey shows this incredible resilience, almost this fierce determination to survive and rebuild herself. She gets to New York with nothing, basically, deals with horrible brokers like Chinel Lee, who sounds like a nightmare, but she manages to get a scholarship to Columbia, builds a successful career in architecture. The book really emphasizes that journey, how she learns to fight and scratch and work and learn. She transforms from weird Audrey Lucas into someone who, maybe for the first time, actually looked happy, like New York was finally her place. It's quite a testament to just sheer will, isn't it?
It really is. But that same resilience, that strength she built up, it also makes intimacy incredibly hard for her. Her relationship with Sarab, the documentary filmmaker, that really brings this to the surface. It forces her to confront those fears. He sees her strength, calls her wounded but still standing. He admires it. But their relationship is definitely rocky. You have moments of real vulnerability, like when she just says, "Don't go, I like you." So simple, but huge for her. But then you also have him painfully accusing her of having no friends, saying she's like a ghost. That tension is so central because it highlights her struggle with letting people in, which goes right back to that lonely, self-raised childhood. The walls she built to survive become these barriers in her relationships.
Yeah, you can really feel that struggle. So, okay, Audrey's working through all this personal history. She's in this deeply unsettling building. And then things take this bizarre turn. She starts sleepwalking in apartment 14B. And finds herself building this absolutely strange 6 by 8 foot lunatic cardboard door.
Yeah.
It's made from shredded bits of her old life, like old papers, but also these corporate labels: Palmolive, Servetus, United Chinese Emirates. What is going on there? What do those labels mean?
That door, it's such a potent symbol. It's like the physical manifestation where her inner turmoil meets the building's influence. And those corporate labels, they're definitely not random. They seem to symbolize this pervasive, almost creepy influence of consumerism, global anxiety, and specifically Servetus. The name comes up again. It links directly to Sarab's documentary project, Imagine Outlines, which is failing partly because Servetus is interfering. His film is about corporations draining natural resources like water from the Hudson Valley. So it adds this layer of real-world corporate evil mixing with the supernatural horror of the Breviary. It's quite clever.
Right, this modern anxiety woven in. And while she's building this door, this mysterious man keeps appearing, right, in a three-piece suit. She thinks it might be the Breviary itself. He shows up in dreams, scratching at walls, telling her, "Build the door." And then there are the red ants. What about them?
Yeah, the man in the suit feels like the building personified, maybe Schermerhorn's ghost driving her. And the red ants, they're another really crucial symbol. At first, Audrey dismisses them, thinks it's just her going crazy, her mind playing tricks, a symptom of her stress. But later, it's revealed there's something much more real in the context of the story. They're described as gatekeepers between worlds, and this connects directly back to her mother's experiences, her talk of holes and fighting her own monsters back in Heighten. It suggests Audrey isn't just hallucinating, she's actually perceiving this hidden, terrifying reality that her mother maybe also glimpsed. It reframes her mother's madness entirely.
Wow, okay. So the building's influence isn't just on Audrey. It seems to have infected the whole community living there. Her neighbors are described as this weird collection of fossils, people with maybe too much plastic surgery, like Loretta Parker. And then you have eccentrics like Mr. Galton, who apparently only ever wears a plain white mask. Super creepy. Audrey feels like they're always watching her, calls them hive-minded. And then her friend, Jane, the bubbly neighbor, she ends up hanging from a noose in her apartment, just tragically. And Marty Hurst, a descendant of that banker who jumped, also a tenant, he sees it, and chillingly calls it a sacrifice. Like the building demanded it. It's like they're a cult.
Yeah, it really is like that. And what's truly disturbing is finding out the tenants aren't just victims here. They are actively involved. They're complicit. After Jane dies, they literally corner Audrey. They inject her with insulin, take her phone, her laptop, and they openly talk about needing her to build the door. They even admit the Breviary could get inside the others, but it was like using a pencil to build a house, meaning the others weren't strong enough or maybe didn't have the right skills. They see Audrey, the architect, someone who literally can build things, as their last shot to open this portal. It suggests this collective desperation, this shared delusion maybe, rooted in decades of complicity with whatever the building wants. The building wearing Schermerhorn's face needs its door. And the implication is horrifying. Maybe they chose this path, hoping to escape their own lives into this other world.
So the building pulls the strings, but the tenants are actually helping it. That makes it even scarier. And as Audrey figures this out, things just spiral. She's trapped, disoriented. She finds more horrors. She discovers Edgardo's body in the garbage chute, his skull cracked from temple to jaw, and he was killed with her rebar, a tool from her profession. She tries desperately to call for help, remembers her friend Jill's number, but the tenants stop her, rip the phone cord out, and then in this desperate act, she tries to swallow the key she found, the key for the door, presumably, just to stop them. She's really fighting for her life and sanity.
She is. And it all leads to this incredibly intense climax. It's Audrey's final showdown, really, with the building, with the tenants, and with her own past. Just as Sarb gets there, he felt something was wrong and came back. The tenants start setting the breviary on fire. Their plan, apparently, is to activate the door, rip it open by destroying the one thing they claim to love, the building itself. Twisted logic. And the building reacts. It literally shrieks, like it's dying. In all that chaos, Audrey grabs the rebar, her rebar, and she has this moment of absolute clarity. She understands the red ants. She realizes they were not the imaginary symptom of madness. They were the gatekeepers that kept the shadow world and the hopeful world separate. That's the key insight. She finally understands her mother wasn't just having episodes back in Heighten. She was fighting her own version of this, trying to keep those worlds apart.
What a revelation. Connecting her mother's struggle to her own right in that moment. So her mother wasn't just ill, she was fighting something real, and now Audrey is too. And so, in this final act of defiance, really reclaiming herself, Audrey uses the rebar to smash the door frame. She destroys her own horrifying creation, and as the building collapses in flames around them, trapping the tenants in their shadow selves, Audrey and Sarah manage to escape. They literally go limping out the door and into the world. It feels like such a powerful break from the building, but also from her past.
It really does. And the epilogue confirms it. The breviary is gone, destroyed. We learn that in the aftermath, 34 tenants apparently locked themselves in their apartments and died in the fire. A mass suicide, it seems. Maybe triggered by the news that Columbia University was planning to tear the building down anyway for student housing. It really underscores their desperate need for another world in which to hide, their final escape into that shadow place they wanted. But Audrey, she moves forward. She has her big 59th Street project going. She makes plans to start her own firm with Jill and another colleague, David. And as she and Sarub fly away, there's this reflection that all children inherit their parents' debts, and it is up to each generation to determine how or whether to repay them. And crucially, they choose to fill the holes they found there with something better than flowers. It's such a strong metaphor, isn't it? Actively building something positive over the decay.
It really is. Audrey's journey is just, it's such a profound transformation. When you look back at it, what do you think is the absolute turning point for her? The moment she shifts from being trapped by her past to actually confronting it.
That's a good question. For me, I think it has to be that moment in the fire, when she truly understands the red ants and connects it to her mother's fight. It's more than just figuring out the supernatural stuff. It's like she recontextualizes her entire life, her entire relationship with her mother's illness. Suddenly, her mother's actions aren't just symptoms of madness. They're acts of defense against something real, something evil. And that reframes Audrey's own inherited trauma. It's not just a burden or a weakness anymore. It's part of this shared battle. And that, I think, is what empowers her to pick up that rebar and destroy the door. She's reclaiming her story, not just escaping it.
That reframing is so powerful, yeah. Her story really serves as this pertinent reminder, doesn't it? That the past traumas, the psychological holes we all carry, they can either swallow us whole, or we can face them, reshape them, build something new. It's not just about surviving, it's about that active choice to build.
Exactly. This whole deep dive into Audrey's door, it really shows that escaping our personal haunted houses, whatever form they take, isn't about running away. You can't, really. It's about understanding what they represent, acknowledging those inherited debts, maybe, and then actively choosing to build something different in that space, something that fills those holes, not with more fear or denial, but with resilience, with hope, with an intentional future.
So, thinking about all this, What does it mean for you listening right now? Consider those holes in your own life. We all have them, right? Those vulnerabilities, maybe those debts inherited from family from the past. Are they just empty spaces waiting, maybe dangerously, to be filled? Or are they places where old patterns, old issues keep kind of gnawing away, trying to build their own doors to somewhere darker? How do you choose to repay those debts? And maybe more importantly, what will you decide to build in their place?